definitely tune in.
Now, it's been a few days since Liverpool, West Brom, Liverpool, Newcastle. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what's changed since Liverpool Palace? Since, we battered Palace 7-0. Liverpool were back, free-flowing Liverpool were back, players were coming back from injury. We were all on the up and up. Then obviously we play Big Sam's team and Little Sam, the little fucking hobbit gremlin that he's become. And all of a sudden, we're shit again. We can't break down teams that set up against us with 6 at the back, 3 centre-backs, 2 wide players tucking right in. We're really, really struggling to break that down. So I thought to myself, I'd have a little look at the statistics and I'd do a little bit of tactical analysis over those few games. Obviously, this is triggered reds, so you'll get some of that as well. So if you look at the last few games that we've had, obviously Palace was 0-7, Liverpool with a comfortable win at Crystal Palace. Brilliant goals, some great cameo performances coming off the bench. Players that needed goals got goals. I'm talking Bobby Firmino, I'm talking Taki Minamino. Salah was a star coming off the bench, a couple of goals and an assist. So then you go on to the West Brom game. West Brom at home. Sam Allardyce is there. You know it's going to be tough, but you're thinking, surely to Moses, we're going to smash these off the park. Obviously, we all know how that transpired. It was a dull 1-1 affair. Then the Newcastle game, again, you're thinking Newcastle away. Newcastle in the league. I've seen all stuff about the fans. They're not being happy with the brand of football they're playing. I'm not being funny, but Newcastle are lucky to be in the league. The club has become a bit of a joke. In my era, I'm 30 in March. Steve, the other lad who runs this channel, he's not far behind me. And the club's never been a great footballing side in our era of watching them play. Obviously, back in the early 90s, they were a good footballing side. They didn't win nothing. We didn't see that. So, we've known them for the Alan Pardew days, the Rafa Benitez days, and obviously now the Steve Bruce days. Personally, outside looking in, I think Brucey's doing a fantastic job. They're not playing great football, but what you'd expect, he's still in the Premier League and you're lucky to be so. Until you get this takeover, which has been touted for, several years now, I'm not sure you can expect much more. Anyway, that being said, you're expecting a comfortable win against Newcastle, from a Liverpool perspective at least. But obviously, it transpired that it was a 0-0, and it was the first time Liverpool haven't scored in the league all season. So fair play to Newcastle there. But what I wanted to do was actually look at the games and look at the statistics of the games from a Liverpool perspective. And there's some quite telling things that are different from the Crystal Palace game to the West Brom game and the Newcastle game. So we'll start with the West Brom game. So if you look at the statistics there on the screen, you can see quite clearly Liverpool dominated the ball, as we always do. We had tons and tons of passes, tons of attempts, where, obviously West Brom just didn't have those attempts whatsoever. But what's telling with these statistics for me is the number of crosses into the box. So there's 35 crosses into the box from Liverpool versus 14 crosses for West Brom. Now, with that being said, Liverpool do play with a lot of width. When you're playing a team which is going to have 3 at the back with 2 wide players tucked right in there, and you're playing 3 giant centre-backs, it's just not going to be that effective. But you can see the number of crosses there. There's 35 crosses. Now, if we have a look at the Newcastle game, very much similar in relation to the possession in the match. Look at the crosses again. 37 crosses from Liverpool versus 18 from Newcastle. And what else is telling on these statistics is the long passes. Klopp's the first person to say, they're just going long, they play long ball, they battle, they win the second ball. Now, Liverpool played 68 long balls in this game. Now, you couldn't see it on the last screenshot, but it was a similar statistic for long passes against West Ham as well. Now, critics will say Liverpool play long passes with purpose, meaning that they're not just hitting an aimless ball, they're playing it round the side, they're playing it through the channel, and they're splitting the play, they're switching the play a lot. Nevertheless, that is a lot of long passes, isn't it? 68. Now, you've got 68 long passes and 37 crosses. Again, with the West Brom game, you've got a similar amount of long passes, but again, a lot of crosses into the box with 35. Now, if we look at Crystal Palace, look at the amount of long balls from us in this game again. It's more than Crystal Palace. It's 69 long balls. But look at the crosses. There's only 11 crosses in that game. Now, what that shows me is that we're playing more centrally in that match. And the difference being with the midfields in them games. Now, on the last podcast, the last long podcast that we've just done, we mentioned about Naby Keita. He hasn't quite lived up to where he needs to be for a Liverpool perspective. But Naby Keita played in the midfield in that game. And Naby Keita plays more forward passes through the lines than any other Liverpool central midfielder. He hasn't quite got there with his fitness yet, and we haven't quite seen who we thought we were going to see. But in the Crystal Palace game, he played in that midfield, and he made the difference with the passes in to the strikers, which is out. You can see the Mane goal. The pass comes in from Keita. It's not quite accurate. It bobbles about, breaks to Bobby, chop pass to Mane, goal. So the point is, in those games, we didn't, in the West Brom game, in the Newcastle game, we had a more steady midfield where they would get the passes out wide quickly to Mane, to Robertson on that side, to Salah, to Trent on the other. Then we get down the sides and we play that type of football. That's meat and drink to teams like West Brom and Newcastle. That is what they want to see when they're playing Liverpool. Now, with us, we need to play more through the middle. And we'll have a look at that in this video, looking at some statistics as well. Now, I think it's safe to say that most teams that play against Liverpool, that are in the bottom half of the table, will set up like this. They'll have 3 centre-backs with 2 wide wing-backs that will cut in when they haven't got the ball. Even when they have got the ball, and I say most teams in the top half of the table don't do this. Arsenal do this. Now, I know Arsenal aren't in the top half of the table, but Arsenal are a so-called big team. They're one of the big 6, even though they are struggling under Arteta, and maybe his job's on line, who knows. But just for the purposes of obviously what we've been discussing in this video so far, tactically and breaking it down, this is what Liverpool oppositions look like at the minute when we play them. I think we can all agree on that. Now, this is your run-of-the-mill standard Liverpool formation, a 4-3-3 formation. The tactics never really change. It just be a variation on the personnel that's actually in the lineup. But typically with this team, what you'll see is Andy Robbo on the left and Trent on the right, and they will push right up the park to support the forward play. They'll get right up there as fast as they can. When this happens, the centre-backs split, and Jordan Henderson or Fabinho, typically Jordan, will drop into that area. The other 2 midfielders will push up and they'll support the forward play. And then you'll see Bobby often dropping down, Mane coming in, Mo coming in, and then that creates more space for the attacking wing-backs to filter through. Now, that is what Liverpool do at their best. And what's what we tried to do against West Brom, and it's what we tried to do against Newcastle. But the issue that we had in those games was, as we just discussed, they were sitting so deep with a line of 6 in there all the time. Now, what we needed to do was adjust the formation slightly, just so we can make those players more effective and ask questions of the back line a little bit more than we did. Now, if you cast your minds back to when we played West Ham at Anfield, we were facing a similar situation. Their defence was set up just like this, and we were really, really struggling to break them down. Now, what Klopp did with the substitutions that day was he brought on Shaqiri. Now, Shaqiri's been in and out of the team for behavioural reasons, other reasons. I think he's also had a hair transplant, so that might have kept him out of the team for whatever reason, hey-ho. He's come back into the team, and whenever he plays for me, he has a moment, he'll have a shot, a free kick, an assist, or a corner. He'll do something which is really good. But for the purposes of this video, and just to show how we should have approached the game, specifically against Newcastle, where Shaqiri come on for 80 seconds, was similar to this. So let's just say, forget the defence. We've got Andy Robbo up there, we've got Trent up there, and we've got Shaqiri just there in the hole. We've got Jota, who is on that side, and we've got Salah and Mane, or whoever else was on the pitch at that time. Now, what we've been doing in every game is getting the ball out this way and trying to go round here and through the back. And we do that on each side. We always do that. And that is one of the best ways that Liverpool play. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But sometimes you do have to just change your tactics ever so slightly. And what we did really well in the game against West Ham was there was a lot of short passing in and around the area at the top of the park. So around this area, there was a lot of interchange. The passing was sharp and short. It wasn't obvious. Get it out wide, get it in the box, head it away. It was sharp and short in that area. And that's what we needed to see a little bit more of against Newcastle and West Brom. And if we would have just played passes like this, just in this area and around the back, we might have got a little bit more success. So for me, I think if Shaqiri would have come on, when Thiago would have come on a little bit earlier, we might have had a better chance of breaking down the compact defence of West Brom and Newcastle, instead of just playing those incessant crosses into the box, which they kept dealing with. Now, our next couple of games, we've got teams that like to play, teams that are on good form, Southampton, Aston Villa. We owe Villa one, so hopefully we will improve on the last few games. Not the Palace game, because we played less crosses and more forward balls, but in particular, the West Brom and Newcastle games.